We're live here, USCFootball.com live, our broadcast we do every week, usually on a Thursday. Today we're doing it on a Wednesday since it's a travel day. USC going to Notre Dame to take on the Fighting Irish. I'm Ryan Abraham, publisher of USCFootball.com, and we're joined by Keely Eure. Hello, Keely. She's
Hello.
a great reporter for USCFootball.com, and Shotgun Spratling.
Howdy.
Yes, another one of our great reporters from USCFootball.com. We got a bunch of great reporters, but these are our millennial great reporters. They're like
He's not a millennial.
Oh, is he
He's
not
a
one?
fake millennial.
Whoa, I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just me. I span all generations
That's
here. I don't know what
true.
you guys are trying to do,
Right.
All
do to me.
generations.
So if you're new, you're just tuning in for the first time, we try to do these every week. We'll do a live broadcast, and you can watch the replay up on Facebook. We'll put it up on USCFootball.com. We'll upload it to our YouTube page as well. So once a week, we're going to talk for about an hour discussing the USC Trojan football team, maybe kind of what happened in the game, how to properly put on a microphone, what Keely can do. Of course,
Sometimes she's
do a little bit of preview for the next game. She's really having trouble with that one.
My shirt's not cooperating.
It kind of matches your shirt and everything. It's black.
does.
Yeah. And we do like to make it interactive, so we'll talk about like what we think is important, but we want to get questions from all of you. So in the little Facebook chat, if you're watching this live, you can type in your questions, and we do our best to get to them all. We'll try to keep this to about an hour and see, because we have Keely and Shotgun have their Family Feud podcast they like to do afterwards. You guys do any preparation this week, or just kind of wing it?
I'm prepped. I'm prepped and ready to go.
I mean, outside of my normal watching the game multiple times, no, I don't. There's no special prep to beat her in a feud.
No comment.
Right.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, it's funny. The people that I talk to that do podcasts, sometimes they're like, all this prep, all this editing. It's like, yeah, just kind of wing it, just kind of go. And we do a lot of questions. We're like kind of question driven, so we kind of go with that. But yeah, I like that you guys have little segments and stuff. It's it's very structured. So if you haven't listened to the Family Feud podcast yet,
Check it out.
maybe go check it out. So peristylepodcast.com is where we put up all of our podcasts. All right, team, we're all going to be going to South Bend this weekend. We're all going to Chicago, really, and then just kind of do some South Bend stuff. You guys excited?
South Bend stuff. Yeah, I'm excited. Always a good trip.
Well, you guys are going to Chicago. You like hang out for a couple days and stuff. I'm gonna be all over the.
You're leaving
Eastern.
before we are.
I know. I'm flying to Cincinnati and then driving to Tennessee and then flying to Chicago the day of the game, getting picked up, going to covering the game, and then going right back to the airport.
Such a shotgun adventure.
Yeah.
So I'm all over the place.
It looks like I'm flying in Saturday morning to Chicago.
Wow.
So I've got like a 5-hour delay till Shotgun's ready. And then I think I got a friend who's going to pick us up and take us to South Bend. And I think Dan Weber will probably take us back. I'm going to hang out in Chicago, though, for a day. Like, I'm not flying out till Monday. So I'm going
That's
to
fun.
spend a day there.
Chicago's fun.
Chicago's a good city.
Chicago's definitely fun. Should be a really interesting trip for the Trojans. What do you guys feel coming out of that Utah game where the first half looked like kind of like butt, and then the second half looked really good? Any thoughts?
So, I don't know if this is a hot take. I thought they looked good in the second half. I didn't think it was like amazing. I think a lot of it was like luck a little bit.
Whoa.
A little bit.
I mean,
I'm just saying there's some games where things didn't go their way and it did there. I don't know how to.
I mean, I think I said yesterday if the Trojans didn't have any bad luck, they'd have no luck at all.
Yeah, you did.
And that was coming off the Josh Fatu, knowing that he got in a car accident, he's got a concussion.
Yeah.
Not looking like he's going to be available this week. There's your starting defensive tackle. I mean, they just seem to be losing guys in the most random ways. You have Kenny Bigelow quits maybe a couple days before, basically. He's going to, kind of transition to the coaching staff side. So now you're losing 2 nose tackles. Now you're going to be starting Brandon Keely more than likely, unless they do. There's some different things they could do there, and we'll try to discuss that in a little bit. But just the fact they lose another body on the defensive line, another starter, so they're down to. I think I tabulated it up.
Ooh, tabulate.
And USC, the last season, they had 38 players playing every single game. Some of the guys are playing, starters. Some of the guys are your punter. Those guys don't play a ton. Some guys are just special teams. This year, they're already down to 36, have played in every game. And Josh Fatu is probably going to miss this one, so that's going to make it 35. It just seems to everyone has had something happen to them. It feels like.
Yeah.
And they made some plays in that second half that they haven't been making. I think
Sure.
more than
That's true.
necessarily luck.
Unnecessarily hard.
Whereas like it's bad luck when you fumble the ball and it bounces right to the other guy and he walks in for a touchdown. That's just
Yeah.
And, if that ball bounces sideways and goes out of bounds, then you're like, oh, well, USC's getting a break there that happened. Or Ronald Jones dives on the ball. You remember when in the was it the Cal game where Jenny Harris dove on the ball, whichever game that was, where the punt hits off Isaiah Langley and Jenny Harris does a nice job diving on the ball and getting to it. Whereas it seemed like the fumbles where USC was maybe a 50-50 ball, it seemed like Utah was able to get all those in the first half.
Yeah.
The second half, it just seemed like USC was actually starting to make some plays, which is something that kind of hasn't been happening. Some of the plays that they made were being wide open. Like the 52-yard touchdown at Tyler Petit versus in the second half, fourth down and Tyler Vaughn's. It's not a great throw by Sam Darnold. He throws on the run, he throws it behind him, and he's saved by his receivers. Yeah. It seemed like the receivers made a lot more plays for Sam Darnold this game than they have maybe all season.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a little bit of a difference than we've seen from last year. It looked like the offense was really good when the receivers make some nice plays. And last year that was similar, where Sam Darnold would make some, he'd throw some 50-50 balls, he'd give his receivers a chance, and they would come down with them. And some of the balls they weren't 50-50 balls, they'd still come down with. Darius Ruiter's stealing balls away from people. Whereas this year, even the 50-50 balls they're not winning, and they're dropping some easy catches. Now in this game, in the second half, they kind of made up for some of those, and I think that was a big impetus for them, being able to make that comeback.
Yeah.
Utah, though, missing a field goal. The kicker was 15 of 16. Like, that's kind of good luck. That's...
Now, rewatching that, Rasheem Green was, like, right in his face.
Oh, really?
So I watched that, 5 times because I was convinced that he blocked it when I first saw it live. But he was in his face, but he wasn't. You can hear on the broadcast something hit. He didn't hit it, but I think he was there enough to cause a little bit of a panic.
I think that he caused something there because if he kicks it straight, I think he blocks it.
Yeah.
Because he's got a full arm. He's extended, right, kind of in the basically if he kicks it straight during the middle.
Right there.
He's flying. That's a great screenshot.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if we can see this over here. That's Rasheem right there.
Rasheem Green flying through the line there. So I think that actually made a big difference on that play. And
so maybe that was forced. Maybe he forced some bad luck.
Maybe forced it wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you can do that, and then sometimes you're right there, like we talked about the Stanford Utah extra point, where the guy, how did he miss blocking it? He was right in the middle of the way, and he still made it somehow. So I think, but that one I thought was a little bit forced. I thought Rasheem Green made a nice play at least to help cause that. It just felt like USC made more plays in this game than they have the rest of the season to me. I mean, they did get some fortunate events, like that. I believe there was something else that kind of stood out in my mind that I had in my notes. I can't think of off the top of my head, but there were a couple of plays like, oh, that went USC's way. But more often than not, it just was like, wow, USC made a play.
Yeah, I felt like there was a confidence in the second half that was kind of missing. It felt like they knew that it was going to be okay. For some reason, I never thought they were going to lose the game, which I definitely thought they were in other games this season, but for some reason I didn't think they would. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this one's going to be interesting. Some fun kind of facts. Dan Weber pointed out that the first time that USC is going to travel to South Bend since 2011 with a permanent head coach. So the last 2 trips to South Bend, USC's had interim head coaches. So that's pretty random that's going to happen.
First time both teams have been ranked since 2009.
Yeah, both teams ranked. Notre Dame hasn't beat a ranked or a top 15 USC team since 1995 when Keyshawn Johnson was on the team.
When I was born.
When you were born? Yeah. So Keely's lifetime had not seen. It was either USC in the top 15 or USC ranked. The really interesting factor, and I talked to Pete Sampson about this on the podcast, who does a great job covering Notre Dame for Irish Illustrated. Brian Kelly's 1-9 in his last 10 games decided by 1 score or less. Or I guess you can't get less than 1 score, but decided by 1 score. And I've heard someone say that too, like 1 score or less. I'm like, what's less than 1 score?
I'll have a score.
I'm not sure. Yeah, like a touchdown or less, I guess you could say. And USC's been very good at those close games. So Notre Dame not being good at close games, USC being good. interesting that we kind of both felt that maybe Notre Dame wins by a couple touchdowns, but if it's close, USC is going to win.
It depends on which Sam Darnold we see. If we see the second half Sam Darnold, I think USC can kind of make Notre Dame's DBs pay a little bit. But I'm also very interested in seeing what the D-line does. You know, how much can Brandon Keely survive in that starting role if we don't see Josh Fatu? You know, I think that could be a problem, but I don't know.
Really good Notre Dame offensive line to go against, too.
Yeah, they got a couple of guys who are on the AP midseason All-American team. I know they had a guard and a tackle there. You know, they've got, I think their tackle is considered one of the top in the nation. You know, that running attack, you know, the quarterback can run a little bit. He's going to be back, I think, is it Wimbush?
Brandon Wimbush,
Yeah, so
he's also the first dual threat that USC's really seen this season. Maybe Sam Ehlinger, but not really.
I mean, they've seen hints of it. I mean, like
Hints,
Troy Williams
like,
has, you know, can run a little bit.
Yeah.
So not a true dual threat is what you're saying.
Yes. That's why
so
I said it's true.
So yeah, it'll be interesting how they, you know, if they see some read option there, those type of things, but also just, you know, the rushing attack of Notre Dame. I mean, was it last year? They, you know, that they were able to hit a couple big runs early against USC because they had a big back and USC didn't really tackle them well. We saw that earlier in the season. It was Western Michigan. They didn't really tackle well against a big back. They've had a couple of times. I thought Moss did a really good job at Utah of running through tackles in that game.
He did a great job.
So, you know, USC has to tackle better. You know, that's something that's been a concern at times this season. And, you know, I think that's – I know some people were very upset that Cameron Smith on our message board was not part of the PFF, you know, top rankings or whatever this week after a 16-tackle interception performance. But, you know, some of that is that he missed some tackles and some of the other guys missed some tackles. You know, there were opportunities for USC to get off the field earlier than they did on some drives. So I think that played into it. I think that's going to be a big thing this week. They have to be able to get off the field, not let that offensive line of Notre Dame kind of churn out some yardage and, you know, do what Stanford usually has been able to do against USC, where a running back, if he's patient, can get 4 yards without, you know, ever getting contact, and then just kind of falling forward if there's nothing there. So I'm interested to see that battle. I think so. I think Sam has regained some confidence after that second half. I think even though he didn't make the best throws all the time, I think he realized that his receiver's going to make some plays for him, and that gives you confidence. I think that's something that happened. I think he lost a little bit of the confidence from last season that he had. And, you know, I said last week that I thought it was a make-or-break game, and I think, you know, you're going in the right trajectory coming off that second half. So I think USC could definitely build off that game, and all of a sudden we see, you know, kind of a new team this week, especially on offense. They come out and they get a drive or two going early. You know, watch out. This team could be dangerous.
We actually have a question that was emailed in for the Facebook Live Hour, if you guys want me to field that. Yeah.
Sure.
So this is Ted Manhattan Beach, just down the street from where we are right now in Redondo. Number one, he said, shotgun. When you review the play counts, can you tell if most opposing defenses are selling out to stop the run? Hence, does it make sense that we pass more if this is where the advantages lie? I
mean, I think you see kind of both. You see teams will drop, you know, 8 guys. You know, when you get in third and long situations, teams will drop 8 guys because they think it frustrates Sam Darnold because he doesn't have as many windows. You know, he's not as affected by the rush, so they will send less rushers and just drop a bunch of guys. And, you know, Sam, you know, is trying to be patient in the backfield. But I think you definitely see some loaded boxes early downs to try to force, to try to get USC to throw the ball early, and then, you know, to keep them out of those third and easies versus the third and longs. And I think USC, you know, did a really good job late in that Utah game of just opening up some holes for Ronald Jones, letting him go to work. You know, that's one of the things that people are like, oh, Ronald Jones hasn't gotten as many touches. He was a workhorse in this game. I mean, they barely used any of the backups. Looking at the play charts that I have, you know, he played 19 snaps in the first quarter, 15 in the second, 15 in the third, 15 in the fourth. That's a big workload. He's played 64 offensive snaps. I think his previous high was something like 30-something.
Oh, really? That low? Wow.
His previous high for offensive snaps was 49 in the Texas game. And he played a lot in that game as well. But, you know, that's 15 more snaps than he's previously played on offense this season.
And he wasn't 100%. On that touchdown drive, he came out gimpy. That's why we saw Vi, is because he kind of came off a little, his ankle was a little wonky. So
yeah, maybe he tweaked it a little bit on a tackle or something. So maybe that's why they decided to go with someone. Maybe he would have even played him more downs. But he was really good in the fourth quarter. The rushing attack just as a whole. And I think the offensive line is starting to come together. And once it, hopefully now that it comes together, they don't suddenly lose someone else, which seems to have been, the pattern so far this season. But
Well, I mean, Toa has a pec strain.
Yeah.
So
it's true. So he didn't practice yesterday. We'll see if he practices today. That's something. When the offensive line is gelled, then you can combat some of those, those heavy boxes. You can go some play action. Against Oregon State in particular, they were able to play action several times and bring safeties up. And they did the same thing against Utah a couple times. The play to Tyler Petite, the 52-yard touchdown, I believe was a play action. I know the safety came up and then was like, oh, no, that's not good. There was a linebacker, I think, also that came up one step and then looked back and said, that guy's running by himself. And so I think the safety from the other side of the field tried to come and get Tyler Petite and couldn't catch up with him. When they're able to run the ball early, they can create those play action opportunities. And then once you do that a couple times, you force teams out of being, stacking the box. And then all of a sudden, you can hit them, with the run game, you can hit them with the pass game, and then you can get to that balance that Clay Helton and staff want.
So number 2, he said Keely, having covered CCP, that's like the Soviet Union. No, Coach Clancy Pendergast, I believe he means.
Oh, I took a class in high school called CCP. It
What
was computer something and something. I don't know. It taught me Excel, so it was actually helpful.
Okay. Well, anyway, CCP. For a while, do you think that he may occasionally mix in some zone coverages to continue the opposing, to confuse the opposing quarterbacks a little more? He said maybe Utah wasn't the right team for as much as Moss was a beast running the ball, and their quarterback was more of a plan B. If Huntley was in there, I think maybe he would do more of that. But
I don't know why he asked me that, because honestly, I feel like that's a shotgun question, because I'm not good at that.
I mean, I thought he did that against Washington State a lot. They ran a lot of zone. I think maybe kind of like what you said, the better the quarterback, the more zone that he'll use versus, just leaving his guys on the island. You saw USC got burnt with some one-on-one matchups early in that game. Emo Marshall did not have a good game. I didn't think Jenny Harris had a really good game either. They did something really interesting, and this is the thing that Clancy does. He changes things almost every week. There's small differences you may not notice. They went to the dime a lot this week, which they hadn't used much since.
A lot of Achilles, too.
Yeah, you see a lot of Keely Ross, but Keely Ross was lined up as a linebacker almost exclusively.
Yeah, I saw it.
So I don't know if it was just they saw the personnel and Utah to combat USC being a dime, use more bunch formations and stuff close to the where they're compacted in. I haven't studied enough of Utah in the past to know exactly what their offense does, but this week they used 34 nickel snaps and 29 dime snaps.
Wow.
And only, off the top of my head, I would guess like 5 snaps was Keely Ross not in the box, basically right beside Cam Smith. So that's a little bit different. I mean, we saw that, I talked about it previously after the Wazoo game, how they moved Matt Lopes into a linebacker position to kind of just try to slow down some of the flat passes, and then, they hit him immediately up the middle.
Yeah, Leach just ran right at him.
Yeah, so, and Utah tried to do that some. And Keely Ross, I think he had a really nice game. He was able to tackle in the box pretty well. He took on some blockers. He's showing his value as kind of a hybrid guy that can play safety, that can play nickel, apparently he can play a little linebacker now. So that was something that was unique for this game that USC did. And then they also, the fourth down play, they broke out their heavy, which they hadn't used since Stanford. So you saw Jordan Iosefa come in, hasn't played at all since a concussion. It was kind of interesting. I texted Keely last night. I was like, guess who played 1 snap? Jalen Green played 1 snap, and that was the onside kick recovery.
Really?
And Jordan Iosefa played 2 snaps, which were 2 of the last 3 defensive snaps of the game. So you don't use these guys that have concussions, all game, and then you kind of throw them in there at the end, like, all right, we need you guys to make a play. And, the fourth down, great play call by Utah. I was saying, I'd gotten back from the wedding I was attending and was actually watching the end of the game. And I was like, there's no way they don't run it here. There's no way they run it. I was like, you sell out wholeheartedly. And Kyle Whittingham calls perfect play, and they throw it out, and the guy's wide open. So give them credit for that. And then USC, making the stop on the 2-point conversion. A very exciting finish. It was fun to watch from afar, not having to cover it.
If this is overtime again, I was like, I'm not ready for this. But, yeah.
Yeah. Well, then he said, FYI, I really enjoy all the new content and mixing of the talent that the site has done, the Facebook Live and Family Feud items, It really makes the site more like a USC media network. Ah, cool. By the way, what's going on with Gmart's Twitter? I know that recruiting podcasts are premium, but if he drops hints and innuendo in his tweets, it will only get more people to sign up. We can't force Gerard to do it. Like, Gerard does his own
Gerard's
thing.
his own creature.
He's his own person. He goes, thanks for all your time and efforts making being a USC fan an even better experience. Fight on, Ted in Manhattan Beach. Thanks, Ted.
Okay, let's get into questions because we have a lot.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Tom Kane says, this is the most hot and cold SC team I've seen, yet they are 6-1. What do you think is stopping the team from firing on all cylinders? Turnovers.
Number one is turnovers. I mean, USC's like in the bottom 3 or 4 in turnovers,
4,
I think.
yeah.
So
same as the most turning over QB in FBS. Fun fact.
Yeah.
well, that's not good for you.
No.
But USC's up there as far as the good thing, if you want to be devil's advocate here, they turn the ball over a lot, but the defense has played well enough where it doesn't hurt you as much. Now, what it does is thwart your offensive drives, but they're not giving up a lot of points after turnover. So it could be a lot worse, I guess you could say. If you want to
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, USC could have easily lost a couple games because of the turnovers. The defense has been so stout, after turnovers and kind of, I believe the number was going into last week was 3 points that they had given up off turnovers. So the offense has given up more points on turnovers than the defense has because they've given up 2 touchdowns now. So you had the Texas, interception return and then now the fumble return. So, I think the defense has done a tremendous job, picking up the offense after those big plays. And that's the thing. Can you take advantage of the potential momentum swinging plays? So USC, when you turn the ball over, can your defense get a stop to help you out? And USC, when they get a turnover, can the offense go and score? Which has been a problem earlier in the year, but they've done a little bit better at that recently. Until Cam Smith intercepts the ball on the next play, it's like we'll just give it right back to you. We didn't really want. We want to give them we'll give the offense a play. The defense a play break. Now you guys get back out there. We want to see what you can do.
Yeah.
So I think the number one thing is the turnovers. I think when you rack up, I think it was 270 yards in the first half, and you have 7 points. I think that shows you how important the turnover battle is. And if USC can suddenly start taking care of the ball, suddenly I think you'll see that point total on the offensive side rise. And the offense, has put up some points. I think they're averaging, it feels like they're averaging somewhere around 25 to 30 points, just off the top of my head. So they can still make big plays, and they showed in this game that they can sustain long drives.
Yeah.
Those 3 drives are just probably the best 3 of the season.
98, 88, and 93 yards.
Yeah, and 16 plays to go 98 yards. They took up almost the entire third quarter. There was one drive before and one drive after, I believe, for Utah. Maybe USC touched the ball at the end of the quarter, and that was it. That just completely wiped out the quarter. If you start seeing some of those drives when USC gets ahead, you got a 14-point lead and you can go 15 plays in 8 minutes or something and just completely drain the clock. Then you say, wow, this offense is really good. And I think that's what you'll see if USC stops turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm. They're averaging 34.4 points a game.
Wow, so even more than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
So the offense is still being able to put some points on the board. So if they can just take care of the ball, you're going to see that rise to 40 points a game.
Yeah.
If you're scoring 42 points a game, you expect to win every game with the Clancy Pendergast defense.
Mm-hmm. Daniel asks, tell Sam Darnold to get a haircut. He plays with hair after he takes his helmet off. They could be the reason his passes are off. No, and he is getting a haircut. He told me. So there you go.
Random fact.
Yeah.
No, and he
why
is
I read it
getting a
because I
haircut.
knew the answer.
Oh, maybe he had too much gel in his. Is that what it was?
His hair
was-
confuses me because he doesn't really have a part. Because he has a widow's peak, but there's no part, so he just it goes everywhere. That's my one Darnold hair comment.
All right.
Corey Leaf says, what's up with Jay Tufeli? Jay Tufeli was actually getting significant playing time yesterday because Kenny Bigelow's out and Josh Fatu's out. So maybe be on redshirt burn alert?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's kind of late for a redshirt burn, but it's possible.
The depth.
It's kind of late. Tyler Huntley burned his red shirt in the bowl game for 3 drives, I think, for Utah last year.
Yeah.
I think he scored on 2 of them, so it helped him win the game. It would be late in the season, but if it depends on the outlook of Josh Fatu, how serious are his injuries. Concussions are always difficult to, kind of identify how long it's going to take to get out. Does he have any other injuries besides that? Multi-car accident could be Could be anything. It could be a fender bender. It could be a drunk driver hitting him. It could be anything in that regard. So we'll see kind of the prognosis as we go forward with Josh Fatu. And then what do they decide to do? Because I think Port Augustine plays into this also. If
You think Porter plays against Notre Dame?
No, I think he plays into this decision.
Oh,
Because
I was like, what?
So this is what I hinted at earlier. So if Port Augustine is able to come back, what do you do with Christian Rector? Well, if you decide that, Rasheem Green can technically play that nose tackle position, you put him and Christian Rector side by side. If you're facing a running team, you can put Malik Dorton or Brandon Peely in there. But when you're facing some of the passing teams, so maybe not Notre Dame, but some of the other teams they face, then you put those two guys, your two down linemen, you put Port Augustine back on the outside, you go from there, and then you don't have to use a D tackle, a true nose tackle. And then, how much do you trust Malik Dorton to play the nose tackle position? That plays into it as well. So I think there's several factors, and I think we won't learn until the actual game, where USC is looking. I think Jay Tufele would definitely travel this week because, just in case, God forbid, that Brandon Peely goes down with an injury, and now all of a sudden you're down to your fourth or fifth nose tackle.
Yeah.
So you got to have someone there just in case. So I think there's a lot of factors that we don't really know until we see how they adjust to Josh Fatu's injury.
Real quick on the Kenny Bigelow situation. So just so people know, he wasn't at the Utah game. We asked Sunday night. Clay Helton said it was personal reasons, and then he announced yesterday at practice that he would be transitioning into a mentorship role, a student coach role. I'm curious to see because, depth charts usually mean nothing, right? They usually mean crap. So he was the backup, basic backup, nose tackle. It seemed like that's what he was destined to be. Like they wanted him to be the backup nose tackle, and if someone in front of him went down, they would put someone else there, and he would continue to be the backup nose tackle. I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but and then it didn't sound like there was any chance that he would come back. But in this situation, when you got so many guys have been hurt in that position, you wonder why. Like, man, he really should be or could be or should be starting.
Yeah, it's a bad week for him to necessarily do that because I think he would be getting significant playing time. If Jay Tufele is getting significant reps in practice, which we haven't really seen, that's a Kenny Bigelow spot that he's taking up. So,
but would Jay have jumped? Do they want him to be the continual backup and just come in sometimes, and they would put Tufele in or Peely, whoever came next, they would put them in?
I don't think he would burn Jay Tufele's red shirt over Kenny Bigelow.
Over using Kenny Bigelow. Yeah. I would agree with that. It's just really a strange situation. Just obviously he wants an opportunity. He wanted an opportunity to play. That didn't appear to be in the cards this year.
He blocked that field goal in Utah.
Yeah.
Well, technically not.
Well,
He
he got
got a hand on it. Let him have his moment, Chuck.
Jeez.
I did after the game. I thought he was going to get another one sometime this season. Brandon Peely actually took his reps in that, so Brandon Peely's now on the kick block unit, in case anybody randomly wanted to know who took his spot. With Kenny Bigelow, he was one of the guys that we were rooting for the hardest because, after the two knee injuries and everything, he hadn't really got an opportunity to, the big opportunity to play at USC, and he's such a highly rated guy coming out of high school. We were really hoping that, he would return to full strength and, get an opportunity to get in there.
Yeah.
The door's never closed. If you remember Joe Williams last year at Utah.
He retired.
He retired for 4 games and then came back and
was an absolute stud. Yeah.
Yeah,
we definitely. Kenny's been a pleasure to cover for many years,
so nice.
and we all wish him the best. We sent him a tweet. He actually replied to my tweet, and it was kind of strange. That was his thank you to Coach Helton and to USC Athletics and stuff. So,
That always happens to you. Guys are like, Ryan.
I don't know why.
I'd be happy to see him come back and get an opportunity to make a big play.
I would too.
We'll
maybe
see.
Maybe they're just being coy. He'll be.
We'll
Some
see.
trickeration.
Probably not if he's not practicing.
Okay, we need to go fast. We have
I'm
a
sorry.
lot of questions
Okay,
this week.
let's tell Shotgun. He's not very fast.
Shotgun. Okay, Sharon says, how is the weather supposed to be on Saturday for this game? It's supposed to be the highs in the 70s, and I'm very excited about that. I don't have to freeze my butt off. So, yes.
Keely tweeted out a picture of her in full on
Instagram.
Instagrammed a ski gear photo. I'm looking at Instagram more now.
I know, it's surprising. Yeah, to this day, that Notre Dame game and the Oregon game that same season was freezing. It was horrible.
I was in the press box for one and in Cancun for a wedding for the other.
Yeah, no, it was
So
freezing,
warm.
and I was not a fan. So that's good.
It's good to know, though, because now I don't have to pack extra warm clothes.
Yes.
Or just look at the weather app. Sean says, what if Darnold gets hurt? How are the backups doing? Lots of injuries.
If Darnold gets hurt, don't worry about the football season. You can just check something else out, like go, watch baseball or something else, because it's not going to be
Hopefully
pretty.
you're a Dodgers fan if that happens. Tom says, word on Carr, is he playing? ? So Carr was very, chill on the sidelines during the Saturday's game. He was, eating a sandwich during the third quarter and, passing the football with fans, in the stands. And he told fans, Steven, we need you. When are you coming back? And he's like, I'll be back. I'll be back for Notre Dame. So he said he's back for Notre Dame, but he didn't practice on Tuesday. He did rehab because he came out kind of sweaty and he had his gym clothes on. I don't know what you call them. Not dressed out. His shorts, whatever. So
T-shirt and shorts.
Sure, yeah. But I don't know. Is that something that they're going to, maybe use him a little bit and not really want to tell Notre Dame?
I think we'll know if he practices today, then he will play. If he doesn't practice today, then probably not. But
the injuries this whole season has been so
true. It's
up
just been
in the
kind
air.
of. Yeah, we don't really know until Saturday when we walk out. I'm like, wait, he's out here practicing? Wait, where's Toa Lobanon? He
Yeah.
didn't make the trip.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
I would say not likely. Be my guess.
Yeah, my guess is that I thought him or Gustin might come back this week, and both of them. I mean, Gustin, no way, he's still in a boot. So
yeah. Apparently,
You can beat the boot doesn't matter because you can play in between games and be in a boot. Basketball players do it all the time. If you have a mild ankle sprain, you wear a boot just to make sure you don't step wrong or do something else.
But the fact that Gustin was away from practice for a month and he just shows up.
But
and
he just showed up. The ghost of Porter Gustin is back.
oh my goodness. But apparently on the broadcast, they said that Helton told the broadcasters that the projected return for Porter Gustin is ACU, which he hasn't told any of us. So
I don't remember hearing that, but
yeah, I heard that. I was like, what?
Interesting.
But they
Okay.
also thought Chimadoga was playing in that game and he wasn't. So I don't know what you want to take
they're
with that.
not very good, in my opinion.
He dressed. He just didn't play. That's rare. To see a player come out like that dressed and you think they're going to play and they don't. We don't see that very often.
That was a little odd. Let's see. Andy says Notre Dame averages 6.9 yards per rush. Where does SC's rush defense rank? Does SC have a chance?
I don't know where they actually rank. I'll let you go on that. I
Go
think
pull it.
USC's run defense is very hit or miss this season.
Especially against Utah.
And the difference is when they tackle and when they don't. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
simple. Western Michigan, they got out of their gaps some. I mean, the long Bryce Love run, they got out of their run gaps. But most of the time, they're in position. They've been in position pretty good. They don't give up. There's not a lot of 8-yard runs where nobody tackles them or, the first contact is, at the tackle at 8 yards. There's a lot of times where USC has opportunities and don't make tackles. So I think that's the difference for them. Keely's over here looking up our stats to be sure.
Yeah, sorry, I clicked Utah by accident, so let me go.
Ryan, what do you think of the run defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing. It's sort of, I think it's more about, someone asked me yesterday at practice, who's the best, run stopper on the defense? And to me, it's more about the scheme. It's, is there, there's not a Stevie Tuigalavatu that's just plug in the middle. I mean, you could argue maybe a Cam Smith is one of the better tacklers or whatever, but I don't know what you think, but when you look at it this guy's the amazing run stopper. I don't know if the USC has someone like that. It's more kind of about the scheme. Sometimes it breaks down. Sometimes the whole tackling thing breaks down. And, sometimes the guy's just running. He hasn't been touched for 8 yards. So to me, that's more about guys being out of position. The problem is when they're in position and they don't make a tackle like you were saying.
I mean, Cam Smith's the one guy that, seems to make every tackle. He seems to be in the hole to make some tackles. I think he is, as valued as he is, I think he's still a little bit underrated as far as how important he is to that defense and making tackles like that because, like you said, there's not a lot of other guys that are that guy's just a run stuffer. I mean, guys like Rasheem Green and even Brandon Peely, when he comes in, and Josh Fatu, they can get to the quarterback. USC, I mean, Christian Rector's leading the Pac-12 in sacks, I believe. He was on the AP second team, I think, All-American team. So, I think that they have, those guys are more hybrid guys. They're supposed to do a little bit of everything, and that's what they want versus just having a giant 330-pounder at the nose tackle position or whatever it may be.
So opponents are averaging 4.12 yards against USC.
How many per game, though?
146.
146 yards per game is not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been okay. There's spots. It's not I wouldn't say it's like some great strength of the Trojans. So.
And I mean, they've done a pretty good job of taking away teams with good rushing attacks. Take away the one Bryce Love run, and suddenly USC was really good at seeing Stanford.
It's also skewed against Stanford. Stanford has the highest average of 7 yards. So.
Because of that one Bryce Love.
Yes.
You get burnt for a long TD run, and it's going to hurt the averages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see. Clayton Clark says, "How is Daniel Imatorbhebhe? Saw him versus Utah, but not the latter part of the game. How is his recovery going?" Say your little fun fact.
My little fun fact.
Yeah.
That in 30 snaps, USC's gained over 330 yards with Daniel Imatorbhebhe on the field. So they're averaging 11.2 yards per play when he has been on the field this season. So you would think that's probably a good number. We should probably get 11.2 yards every time. That would be advantageous.
Maybe.
He does some different things for the offense. He causes defense to look at him and say, "Oh, that guy's on the field. Beware of that guy." Now, do they change their scheme and stuff? Not necessarily like they did against Adoree Jackson last year when he would come into a game. But there were a couple times, for example, there was a 21-yard pickup to Deontay Burnett, was just a slant. But there was a outside linebacker that was in position, that would have been right in the throwing lane, and he saw Daniel Imatorbhebhe coming across the formation, and he stepped towards Daniel Imatorbhebhe 2 steps. And because of that, the window was wide open. Sam throws it to Deontay Burnett, and he was able to pick up 21 yards on the play. So that's the type of things that he does. If Tyler Petit was coming across the formation, would you have seen the same, step or two? If either the freshmen were coming, I don't think you would have necessarily saw that. Versus, that guy's a receiving threat. And we know that Sam Darnold really likes him. Make sure you're watching him on when he's in the game. And he's a good blocker, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they ran behind him a couple times on that the drive that kind of spanned the third and fourth quarter. And, that drive started with, I think, 2 13 and 12-yard runs or something like that. And I think both of them were right behind him or on his side at least. So he's a solid blocker, and that helps as well. If I was to guess, I would say he's probably the best blocker of the 4. I don't know. What would you guys think of the 4 tight ends that are left?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I would go with it.
Well, Daniel told me leading up to the Utah game that he was not 100%, but he wanted to kind of see against how he could do against Utah. Helton said on Thursday that they would kind of sprinkle him in. So we expected how much we saw from Daniel against Utah. How much we see against Notre Dame, I think it will be more. He got first-team reps yesterday, so he looks good.
I talked to him yesterday, and he says he feels fine. He was on a bit of a pitch count, and I put a little story up on the site. You can check it out. But Shaka told me he played 17 snaps, but 3 of those were kneel downs. I expect him to play more. Only 1 target in the game, so it's like he's out there. It's fine, like blocking whatever. But really, his impact's going to be being that dynamic guy down the field. And they've used Tyler Petit in that role, but it seems like the play has to work perfectly for that to materialize. And I think with Daniel, you're going to get a guy that can maybe make a catch on a 50-50 ball, like Shaka was saying.
Mm-hmm. We got a lot of questions about Imam Marshall.
Okay.
Peter says, "Is the staff willing to go with Langley if Biggie continues to struggle at the level he has recently?" I don't think so.
No.
They have used Langley in there on occasion. One thing they did this game, and I thought it was kind of a refresher for Iman, is in the third quarter, Isaiah Langley came in. It was a 4-play drive. Maybe it was just kind of a clear the mechanism drive for Imam Marshall. After that, in the fourth quarter, he gave up 2 catches that were a 5-yard play and an 11-yard play were the 2 times he was targeted. But I thought he played much better after that kind of, refresher. Like, you just take a minute, get your bearings, and then come back the next drive with the team. So that was the only time we saw Isaiah Langley. Previous games we've seen him a little bit more mixed in, the couple games. But the fact that he only played 1 drive this week kind of tells you that, Imam Marshall's the guy. He's going to have to make plays.
Yeah.
Ryan Fox says, "We started to separate when Rojo started getting fed the ball in the second half. T needs to give it to him early." It's not a question.
So T said yes. Yeah, he did. But T said yesterday was asked by, I think it was Scott Wolf. Scott Wolf's getting very terse answers from the USC coaching staff. Like, I forget. I think he told them how many times I forget what the ratio was.
It was Adam Maya.
Was it? I'm sorry. It was Adam Maya. Dang, it wasn't Wolf. Sorry.
Adam Maya also getting terse.
He was getting terse answers too. So yeah, he gave the ratio of runs to passes, and it was heavily leaning towards passes. And T was very short and was like, "That was a game plan going in, and that's what we needed to do to try to win." Something like that. It was like, okay, so they tried to throw the ball more by design in the first half. And then it was running in the second half. And I don't know if that was by design, but that's what they were doing.
Yumi says, as a huge SC fan, it has been very disheartening to watch our team play, especially the loss to the Cougs living in Washington. It was very embarrassing and humiliating. Our glory days is ever coming back? Team 6-1. Yes,
Yeah.
Washington was probably not good since you live in Washington, but the team's 6-1 and playing well, ish. So,
Well, ish.
It could be a lot worse. I'm
Yes.
sorry that you were embarrassed. And, I mean, we don't want to diminish your fandom at all. We want you to be that powerful fan. But, don't take it so hard. Like, this team is doing pretty darn good. They're probably the best team in the Pac-12 right now. Like, in our power rankings, we put USC number 1 in our podcast of champions. Maybe Stanford's better right now, but USC's already beat Stanford. So
here's my
I don't
question for Yumi. What do you want to happen? What differently? Obviously, beating the Cougs. Blowout wins? I don't, like, I'm honestly curious.
All right, so going back to the previous question, I looked up Ronald Jones's rushes. He had 5 in the first quarter, 2 in the second, 6 in the third quarter, and only 4 in the fourth quarter. So part of that
You made
is,
him count in the fourth.
I mean, he had 10 carries in the second half. He had 17 carries. I mean, 15 to 20 carries is about where you're normally going to get. They don't want to
Right.
overuse him, especially because he's nicked up still. He's still not 100%. So I didn't have a problem with the number of carries he got. The fact that he got 10 in the second half, and the fact that they were running the ball really well. I think it was telling that that they wanted to run the ball in the fourth quarter, and so even though Ronald Jones was banged up and they pulled him out, they still ran it with Vi, and in the third quarter they ran it with Cedric Ware, I believe. So they gave those opportunities to some of those other guys just to fill in. They're still running the ball. I don't know. Did you see the actual pass run?
they ran a lot more
Ratio?
in the second half,
No,
for sure.
I did not see the ratio. Speaking of running, Jeff says, is Malapai the clear number 2 behind Rojo?
It was 33 rushes to 50 pass attempts, and 2 of those rushes were scrambles, so it's actually 31 to 52.
All right.
So there's a difference there. The Vi versus Cedric Ware, the number 2 is Stephen Carr.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Vi versus Cedric Ware just seems to fluctuate each week, because last week I think I said that Cedric Ware didn't get in until the fourth quarter against Oregon State, or at least in the second half, and Vi got some carries in the first half. This week, Cedric Ware played in the second quarter. Vi didn't play until the third quarter, and then and played some in the fourth quarter. So it kind of just is fluctuating.
Yeah.
I think there are specific things they want to do with each guy if those guys are in. So I think Vi can go outside a little bit more than Cedric Ware. So based on the play call, if they're going to put a backup in, maybe that has something to do with it. I think those guys are clearly 3 and 4 though behind Rojo and Stephen Carr.
Mm-hmm. Linda says, ND can be a very hostile environment for SC games. I hope they're prepared for noise and a pumped up Notre Dame team. They are pumping in a lot of crowd noise at practice. Helton gave a little mini speech to the team after practice yesterday and was kind of telling them the importance about this game. I talked to Josh Follow, who said that Baxter is telling them, like, this will be hard. He said that the environment at Wazoo will be a JV team compared to Notre Dame. So they're putting it in their heads that they have to be ready, and it's going to be a crazy environment.
Yeah.
What did Ronald Jones say yesterday?
He said that on the bus ride into Notre Dame 2 years ago, 20,000 fans were flipping him off and mooning the SC team. So
there's that.
So there's that.
I mean, I don't know if you want to a lot of the players were talking about that. Could that work against you, where you're like trying to make it out to be like, this is going to be so hard, and it's like,
It could be. You could overhype something. I really like Dan's suggestion of going to the stadium for the walkthrough the day before.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's allowed. I remember there was the big ordeal with Kiffin, I think in a Syracuse game or Minnesota game, where he didn't allow the other team to walk through at the stadium. So I guess I think you're supposed to allow the other team if they desire. So if I was USC, I'd walk through, so you can see it. You can walk out. You can take your picture with your touchdown Jesus. Get that photo in.
We used to be able to cover those with Pete Carroll. We would go to their walkthroughs. They would play Trojan ball, where I forget what the rules were. You run around throwing the ball, linemen or catching passes and throwing passes. It was kind of fun. And keep in mind too, Notre Dame's coming off a bye week. They also don't have class this week. This is their fall break, so remember the Bush push game? Like they put now those teams were they were higher ranked teams, but they put so much into that game and gave USC all they could handle. You kind of get the same feel. Like they're putting a lot into this one. It's like you got the bye. They've got a totally tough stretch coming up. They play Stanford on the road later on after they play Navy, which is going to be like a body blow sort of game. But for this one, it's all like set up really well for Notre Dame. So USC is going to have to play well because of the noise, everything. This is the environment. Everything is set up to give Notre Dame an advantage from the start.
Yeah, I don't think you can overhype it, just in the sense that I think that the USC team 2 years ago was kind of caught off guard by how crazy the environment was. So I think mentally preparing yourself is not necessarily a bad thing in this case. Also, how much Wazoo, I think, also caught them off guard.
I think 2 years ago they were just caught off guard by how crazy the entire week was.
Yes, that's a very fair point.
Well,
New coach, you got an AD who collapses before the game. So you guys were putting out, this would be the first time. This would be the first time since 2013 that hopefully the AD doesn't have a medical issue.
At Notre Dame?
Yeah, Notre Dame.
That's a very specific stat.
Yeah. You guys got your stats. I want to have one too.
Okay. Christopher says, read an article where SC clearly has faced a tougher schedule than most of the top 25. Can you speak to that?
They have, yes. I think when USC's getting dinged a lot for where they're ranked and all that kind of stuff. People don't worry. First of all, don't worry about the rankings. It doesn't mean anything right now. But that's the one thing is that if you look at USC, they're getting dinged because they haven't played up to the potential. They haven't looked as good. But they also have played a much tougher slate. All the teams that have gone to bowl games and through the outside of Oregon State, you're talking about all these bowl teams, and Notre Dame didn't last year too, but obviously they're a ranked team. You played a bunch of tougher teams. There weren't really any cupcakes in there, so I wouldn't worry about that too much.
I mean, last year when USC got on their win streak, who were the wins against? Besides the Washington game, a lot of those they didn't have to play great. They played good, and they were able to get a win out of it. Maybe potentially that part of the schedule comes after the Notre Dame game, but ASU just beat Washington. Yeah. Arizona is running all over people with Khalil Tate. The high school Houdini is what I used to call him, because he would just there'd be six people running all over. He'd just slip out and be gone. Like, whoa, he was supposed to be sacked for 22-yard loss, and he ran for 75. But then you got Colorado. Colorado's been up and down. UCLA, obviously.
They've been down, basically. Colorado's been down. There's no up.
Well, okay, speaking of which...
They beat Oregon State. That's it.
They beat Colorado State, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's early. Okay.
Speaking of which, Scott says, can the defense, or are they capable of handling a hot Khalil Tate of U of A?
Yes, because they'll be designed. Remember last year when Khalil Tate tried to come in? He got two pretty decent runs, 20-yard runs. And he was one of 162 throwing the ball with more completions to USC players than his own players. I think they'd have a similar game plan. They would control the run. They'll put guys on islands, force him to make good throws. And he's made some nice throws. I've seen some of the highlights. He's made some nice throws this year. USC wanted Khalil Tate, but they wanted him to play a different position. And we're seeing how dynamic he can be with the ball in his hand. He wanted to play quarterback. Arizona was kind of the one school that that offered him as a quarterback. And they're reaping the benefits of that right now.
Juan says, does Notre Dame have any injuries at key positions? I took notes of that.
I just lost the linebacker.
Greer Martini, what a great last name.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was excited about that.
Martini is a great.
Greer's a unique first name too.
They had a few guys banged up against North Carolina. It wasn't serious stuff. Winbush was banged up, but now he's been practicing for at least a week. The quarterback. So them coming off a bye, I think it's the opposite. They did lose one guy during the bye week, like I said, Martini, but for the most part, this is a team that's been getting healthier.
All three of the running backs had ankle issues, but Kelly said that they're all fine because they had 2 weeks of pretty much doing nothing, or a week.
And Josh Adams is the running back that's people are talking about for Heisman kind of stuff now too. So he's really good, more of a bruiser kind of back. The USC's had some trouble with those guys before, but he's a dude to watch.
But their quarterback had a foot strain, and he hasn't played in 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, could there be some rustiness? I don't know.
He's practiced fully for at least a week or so.
Christian says, did anyone ask Jack Jones why he left his man open on the 2-point conversion?
All right, so...
Here we go.
Did you talk to him about this?
No.
Okay.
No, we
so let me describe what has been an issue for USC. Is that same exact play, which is why Utah probably ran it. The rollouts and throwbacks. USC's been burned on it, I think 3 times this year.
Texas and Stanford.
They take a tight end across the formation and he'd be wide open because the safety doesn't chase him, whatever. The safety this time did recognize. Marvell Tell recognized the play, saw it, and was chasing after him.
Chris Hawkins said they knew pre-snap. They knew what it was.
So they were able to do that, but this is a thing where Jack Jones tried to do a little bit too much because you see that something has been a problem, and you're like, okay, I'll fix it, and you know that what they're trying to run, you try to take care of that instead of letting your teammates do it, and that leaves the guy wide open. Luckily for USC, it was Troy Williams versus Tyler Huntley. I think Huntley keeps his eyes open, and they win that game because he throws to Darren Carrington.
I know the screenshot was going around where if you looked exactly where Williams was and how Jack Jones let his man go, his eyes were already down. It wasn't like his eyes were up and then Jack Jones was like, oh, here. He saw that Troy was just running the ball. So, I mean, I don't think it was that big of a deal.
People got on the message boards too. They're like, "Why didn't you guys ask?" Because I put up an interview with Jack Jones. Like, why didn't you guys ask him about that? Like, well, we didn't know. Like, we knew it just happened right after the game.
We don't have DVR after the game. We're like, oh, look at that.
But I put the video. I shot my own video of the 2-point conversion, and then people started tweeting like, "The guy was wide open. The guy was wide open." Then you kind of look at this. You're like, "Oh yeah." So, but we didn't know that when we talked to him. The first time we get to talk to him is today. So we can ask him today. Why did you leave Darren Carrington, maybe the best receiver in the Pac-12, wide open?
Steve says, does Sam need to
Not
start...
Tyler Vaughns? Wait.
No, I mean...
Hey, we caught it. That's good. I'll allow that. That was good. Steve says, does Sam need to start the game with short ball before attempting to go long? He seems like he's taking a long time to warm up.
I mean, if the defense allows you to throw some short passes early, I think that's a great game plan just to get your quarterback in rhythm and get going. USC didn't really need that this game. I mean, they scored pretty early, right?
Ed says, hi. Hi, Ed. 3rd and 4th and inches. We hand off to a back and fail too often. Why not use Big Sam on a QB sneak with a huge back pushing him? Worked against the Irish.
One, they don't want Sam to get taking any hits if possible. That's part of it. I think you gotta. I mean, the read option works better in my opinion than trying to go straight up the middle. Depending on, I mean, it's all down in distance.
Yeah.
And then also you gotta get under center. I know another question was
I'd like
asked
to see him
about
under
that.
center. Yeah.
Hey,
What?
it's my job.
Oh, jeez. I'm gonna take it anyways. So Stephen Lapp asked Shotgun during the first series. Because I saw my name. During the first series, Sam Darnold went under center one of the plays. Never saw him do it again. Am I wrong? Wouldn't it be beneficial to be doing this more often, especially on short yardage plays? They actually did it 3 times in the game, and it was really effective. They went under center 3 times. They averaged 17.3 yards per play on those 3.
They're going to make everybody mad.
They threw it once for 19 yards, and they ran it twice for 33 combined yards. So, one of those runs, the part of the reason why they went under center is so that they could run the jet sweep and the jet sweep fake, which they did to Velus Jones. So when Velus Jones was in there, he got a jet sweep and ran it for, I think, 12 yards. They ran a fake off of it and threw it. I think that was the 19-yarder. So USC is not going to just get under center and hand off the ball to Ronald Jones, run single back stuff. That's just not their offense.
Right.
So when they do it, expect something unique to come out of it. And can they get under center and run quarterback sneaks? Sure, they should do that. I'm a proponent of that in short yardage situations. I don't think you have to do it every short yardage situation. I don't think you have to be under center just because you need to be the quarterback closer to the line or whatever. I think if your offense is going to be in shotgun for 60 plays of the game, do you need to run 5 plays under center just so you can say you were under center or whatever? I think if you're comfortable running shotgun, then run your normal plays.
Are you comfortable running shotgun?
I'm not comfortable running ever. I hate running.
Mick Connolly says, is there anyone that can step up and fill the shoes of Dory Jackson on punt returns and kickoffs? I don't think kickoff hasn't been that bad.
The kickoff's okay. You're not going to fill his shoes, but you could at least be competent at punt returns, and USC is not. As much as we love Jenny Harris, and he's awesome, but I just don't think he's where he should be right now as far as being the punt returner.
All right, so there was the one ball that bounced, rolled down into, had the big bounce and rolled inside the 2-yard line or whatever. That one. Was there any other plays in that where you actually had a shot and did something wrong?
There was two.
There's a two. It landed on the 2-yard and there's a 7-yard.
Yeah, the 7-yard.
Oddly enough, both of those were 2 touchdown drives for USC's offense.
Yeah.
So,
but the 7-yard wasn't it? It landed on the. He was at the 10-yard line. He let it go and bounced there, right? Am I correct
I
in
thought
this?
that could. I made a note that could have been.
Yeah, I thought that there was 2. We asked about him afterwards. He mentioned 2 of them. One of them, he said he didn't get over in time, like he was a little bit late coming over, so he let it bounce.
I think that's the one that rolled on the 2-yard line because you see him running towards it and he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna get there," so he lets it go, and it takes a fortuitous.
But no,
really
I think he's a really good player for USC. He's been really important, but he muffed one. He's fumbled. He's made bad decisions at times. I think he's got better. There was a couple earlier in the game where I thought he did a good job of stepping up and catching the ball, but it's just it just sounds like let someone else do this. Like someone else can at least make a play. They're not putting any sort of pressure on a punt return at all for the whole season, and that's too much. You have too many good athletes to never ever put pressure on an opponent for a punt return.
I would still like to see Jack Jones back there. I think he's so dynamic in a small space, can make guys miss that can be really important on punt returns.
He could make the same amount of mistakes as a Janie Harris, but then break a couple. You're getting too many mistakes and not any upside. So.
Yep. Tom Kane says, have any former players stopped by or are planning to stop by practice this week to talk about the importance of the game, similar to Keyshawn, etc. last year from a Trojan marooned in Connecticut? Thanks for your coverage. Doug Flutie was there yesterday.
Yeah.
But that's not really.
He was not a former.
Yeah.
He's a BC Eagle. I don't know. I haven't heard of anyone scheduled to come, but we'll see. I think the last couple of times, because it was the intro. I think they did it for Orgeron in 13, and then for Helton in 15. But it was this whole rally because of the interim coach and all that kind of stuff. Now it's just kind of business as usual. But we'll see if anyone shows up this week.
Matt says, do you think Clancy will load the box against the run versus the Leprechauns or something else? I think he should.
I think he will.
That'll be part of it.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen much of Wittenbush. I haven't been able to watch much of his stuff to know how good of a thrower he is. But, I think that the important thing with the Notre Dame offense is stopping the run first.
Yeah.
Their passing game is not as good as the running game. So.
Not necessarily always stacking the box, but they'll bring some different kind of run blitzes. I think they'll show some different fronts, different looks. But yeah, I think that'll be the focus.
Alberto Carrillo, which is actually a USC baseball player, but
that's the name.
I don't know if there's any relation.
Will
USC ever go to a 2-back backfield for power plays?
Occasionally they've used it. That's not, but that's like Shotgun said before, that's just not the nature of this offense. It's something that you can use from time to time, but not something that's going to be a feature.
Someone else asked about using a fullback.
Same thing.
I don't think that that's something they want to do. I don't think they have a ton of trust in Ruben Peters, just as a blocker, a guy that's a converted walk-on linebacker. It's a fullback. I don't think that that's something that they want to feature in the offense. We'll throw the fullback out there. Yeah. They used some 2 tight end sets more this game. They were really successful in that. When they went to their normal 2 tights set, they averaged 9.83 yards a play. Part of that was, and only a couple of those plays were Daniel Moore-Baby even in on. So I think that they were really successful with Josh Follow in there. He only played a couple plays and was dynamic, in the opportunities he got. So maybe you'll start seeing more of those opportunities. That's the extra blocker if you want to go max protect or something. But that all depends on getting the defense to come up. And then you can play action, you go max protect, 2 receivers in a route, because if you don't, if you get the defense dropping, then you have 2 receivers going against 6 DBs or whatever it may be. That doesn't really work so well.
No.
So that was actually something that Sam did on the 3rd down carry when he gets the big first down. He saw them drop. They only sent 3 or 4, and he knew that he had guys dropping in coverage. Made one guy miss and picked up the first down. Slid, got down. That was a great play.
Yeah.
Probably play of the game.
So we're
play of the game. No, second best play of the game. The 2-point conversion stop's probably play of the game.
How about the Tyler Vaughn's catch on 4th down?
No,
Oh my goodness.
no.
by far the
No,
play of the
He's the
game.
boy
Sorry.
that you don't think is the best receiver in the Pac-12.
No, I know he's the best receiver. This is always for second place.
A faker. We found it out. He lied.
Carrington's really good though.
There's multiple questions about maybe moving if the D tackle depth is a concern, moving someone from the O line, maybe Jacob Daniels back.
A guy that's played defensive tackle before, except that they're trying to redshirt him and get him prepared for offensive line.
So then what's the less red shirt? Jay Tufeli, the guy who is the position and you eventually want to
It
develop?
depends on how much. I would say that they would move Jacob Daniel before they would move. I mean, if you're going to burn a red shirt, then you would burn his before Jay Tufeli's, unless you think Tufeli's ready to play now. That's the other difference.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how much confidence they have in Jacob Daniels, so that's like
Yeah.
that's the problem.
I think he's also slimmed down a little bit from
Yeah.
his nose tackle weight. So I don't. There's a lot of factors there as well.
I don't know.
He would be the guy if you're going to make a change.
We're at 1 o'clock.
Yes,
So
we have a couple more.
okay, we'll knock these out.
I also have some Twitter questions.
Oh,
Someone whose name I cannot pronounce, the last name is Ron, so there you go. Do you think the defense could benefit from doing more stunts?
You know, I think the defensive pressure has actually been pretty good.
yeah.
I think they're beating guys one-on-one a lot of times. I think, like in that Washington State game, when you're struggling to get to the quarterback late, that's when you need to run some different stuff. And you know, especially if you can sub in and use a fresh body to do a stunt with, then I think maybe you can do it.
But with only like two, I think it's a little less because they only have like a couple down linemen most of the time too. So I think you're probably limited a little bit more than if you had more traditional front. But
I think it's a good observation to notice that they're not doing a ton of stunning.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not something I watch all the time. I don't see that a lot, but I could be missing it. But I think some of it's just you have two guys with their hand on the ground and not more.
Paul says, do you think USC will ever win a game by out-coaching the other team?
Yes. But we get your point that
I mean, I'd say they outcoached Oregon State.
Well, their coach was already halfway up.
They did it, right?
John says, what's wrong with Jody Lewis and Josh Imatorbhebhe? We're missing that juju physicality out there in offense.
Joe Lewis wasn't dressed, am I correct, for the game?
Yeah, Jody Lewis was not dressed.
So
And we never got why. So,
that happens when you have a injury list that does this.
yeah.
And sometimes the guys at the back end.
Joseph Lewis was like this close. Like when Tyler Vaughns was coming up, you would talk to the coaches and they would mention both of those guys. And so you just felt he was the next. And then for whatever reason, it's fallen off.
I mean, since he got injured before the Cal game and didn't travel for that, he's kind of his opportunities have been kind of short.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's because you're getting the conference play, you kind of shorten the rotation and everything, or he just hasn't recovered from the injury, has bothered him, whatever it may be.
And Josh Mentorebe is getting in there some. It's just not.
Just not this last week.
Yeah.
Yes.
No Trayvon Sidney either this past week.
Which was weird too.
Yeah, he got, I think, 12 snaps the week before, but he got 0. More Michael Pittman this week than last week, though.
Yes. Christopher says, do you see similarities in SC's offense and Clemson 2016 with a stronger run game?
I mean, they're pretty different quarterbacks, I'd say. But, I mean, I think that's a Clemson team that maybe in the middle of the season you didn't expect to, like, beat Alabama later on. And I think they kind of got better. I mean, there's a chance that USC could do that if they make some sort of run. But I don't know. I mean, I think the quarterbacks are Deshaun Watson and Sam Darnold. I think there's some differences there.
There's some differences, but I can see a good comparison there. Also, if T. Martin really wants to kind of investigate the Clemson playbook, he can do that because his son plays for Clemson.
I like
so
that.
He's a freshman this year on the team, so if he's like, hey, can you just pass along the playbook? Let me take you got any good plays for me? Like, if you need some ideas, Amari could probably pass a couple on.
Wow, interesting.
Or if he's like, hey, I saw this play that you guys ran, it was really good, do you have something, do you have a secondary play off of that? How do you guys kind of use it? That you can
What's the
pick his
father-son
son's brain. Yeah.
confidentiality? How does that work?
Oh, I don't know.
Who knows? Shane has some interesting sources here. He says, question. I ran into Porter's uncle after the Oregon State game.
Okay.
He told me how he hurt his toe. Why isn't that public? Or is it? Porter is ready and would play at the Notre Dame game per his uncle. Thoughts?
But why is it not?
Do it.
I mean, he had surgery, like we know, like I'm not sure.
What are
like,
you
what is it?
implying there, Shane? Is it a sketchy thing how he got his toe, or is it just like you heard it in the game?
Was he like? I mean, he maybe was doing like some Muay Thai or something, like kicking boards.
I think the sketchy thing is having him playing 4 days after surgery. That was like,
Yeah.
why did that happen?
Go back to the Facebook Live after the Texas game. I think we all were like, what if he's out for a long time after having to play in that Texas game? Just saying.
I'm pretty sure I said that Christian Rector will feel just great.
I'm sure you did.
No, back then it was talking about Connor Murphy, and
We didn't realize they were going to shift Christian Rector out, which has been a tremendous decision.
yes,
Props to that Clancy guy.
you want to talk about coaching? That's great coaching. I like,
Yeah. It's,
Make an adjustment on the fly.
it's selective coaching hate. Okay, let's go to Twitter questions.
Okay, Twitter.
Raider Matt 5204 says, "How concerned should USC fans be with the play calling consistency?" I'm assuming he means on offense.
Yeah, I would say they consistently do call plays, so I wouldn't be too worried about it.
That's what you get for asking non-specific questions.
You know, when I watch the games, I see them do some new stuff every week. You know, when they're calling plays, maybe that is something. But, you know, I like the fact that there's some new wrinkles every single week to everything they've done. They build on stuff from the week prior. You know, I think that's what you ask for out of coaching staff, instead of running the same plays over and over. I think it just depends on when they call it and the
Yes.
execution of it. And when the offensive line blocks, the play calling looks a lot better.
Yeah, I agree.
He also asked, "Do you think Sam Darnold is starting to find his sea legs?" I think he's starting to get out of his head a little bit.
I think that second half is a big confidence boost. I think it can lead to great things if he can continue it.
Good question. Okay,
Yeah.
so Shane, follow up with Shane. Shane says that the toe injury wasn't game related. Then we don't know the cause.
No, we don't. And you never know. He could have. I mean, I talked to Giuliano Valanico. He hurt his knee falling down the steps on the way to class. Ochocentric wear.
You almost caused an injury.
Yeah, I almost caused an injury because I was walking out and he was, trying to say bye to me as I was leaving after a practice, a month or so ago, and he slipped and had to be caught by one of his teammates as well. So, stairs are dangerous. They should
They
make
are.
all escalators everywhere.
When
on USC
a
campus.
couple years ago, Juju Smith was on one of those,
Hoverboards.
like whatever, the little one wheel in the middle. Is that what it is? A hoverboard? Yeah. And like, so we were going by each other. He stops there. I was like, "Hey," and he turns to talk to me, and then he almost fell. I'm like, "Holy crap!" Like, oh, I got Juju Smith injured because he wanted to say hello. Like,
Oh
that
my
would be
gosh.
bad.
Okay, so now there's confusion with Porter. Someone was like, "I thought Porter had a pectoral tear." He does. He
Does
has a
that as well.
pectoral tear.
That was in the game.
And toe.
Or we think it was in the game. I don't know.
Dun, dun, dun.
He actually had already injured the pec previous to that, and then hurt it worse in the Texas game.
Okay, so maybe it was weightlifting or something.
So it was like a strain previously. And pectoral, a lot of times with linemen, is this happens, you're going and your hand gets caught in a jersey or something, and you go way back, and that thing will rip on you. That's how Antoine Woods actually tore his a few years ago.
Okay.
He was going, and he got his hand kind of got stuck in the jersey, and he got his arm pulled back quickly, and
That's
it
awful.
tore his back.
That's gross. Well, as you can see with Toa and Vianney and now Porter, the lineman.
They're probably not doing a lot of like chest stretching before the game for something like that.
There's a guy in my mentions who wants me to figure out their elbow position when they press, because that is the reason why all the pec strains are happening. And I'm like, I'm not going to be some like conspiracy theorist on this. So
I just want to know, my sternum pops. Like people's bones pop, my sternum pops. I've never heard anybody else do that, so I don't know
I
why
know
that
someone
happens.
whose sternum pops, and it's
It's
really
really
gross.
weird.
It's really gross. Great.
So we don't know all the answers. I
Last
don't even know
thing,
about my own self.
last thing. People keep saying bulletin board material. Everyone doesn't predict USC to win this game. Are the coaches aware? Are the players aware? Do they know what is going to happen?
I mean,
Ah.
Vegas doesn't pick them to win, so
Yeah, I was
And
asking the
Vegas
players. I'm
always
like,
knows.
nobody thinks you can win this game. Yes or no?
If you ask them, they're just gonna be like, "We don't care. We're
Right.
focused." You're gonna get some canned response.
But I think
Oh,
they
they're-
probably are aware
Oh,
that
yeah.
they're,
Yes.
they're not a favorite for the first time
well,
this
they're,
year.
they're aware because after the Washington State game, there were people picking Washington State. It wasn't everybody, but they said, I think it was Chris Hawkins. Was like everybody said we were going to lose up there. It's like if one person says you're going to lose, then it becomes everybody
Yeah.
for a team. And so teams try to build on anything they can get, and coaches will try to point anything out to motivate a team. So
Yeah.
I am certain they are aware that some people are picking against them, including Vegas.
Tom says, "Are all three of you going to ND?" We are. Fun fact.
We will all be in South Bend. I'll be in Chicago.
So,
Hopefully you guys are all going, everyone out there. It's a very fun trip if you've not been.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. I'm trying to remember the last time I was there. Like, I was talking to Pete Sampson on the podcast. I'm like, it might have been 2011 or something. I don't think I went the last 2 trips, but
Missed all those fun times.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
madness.
I haven't gone when interim coaches have been running the.
That's
Sweet.
that's your thing.
All right, so are we done?
I think so. Thanks,
All right.
everybody. Unless you want like last second questions. But
Yeah. No, we're good. We're gonna let them.
They're
let you.
flooding in. That's okay.
Sorry, everybody. So send your questions in. They can answer them on the Family Feud podcast. Just email them or tweet at them and stuff like that.
Steven just typed a novel. I feel like we have to honor his novel question.
Oh my.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I felt bad. While the
Novella.
play calling has been subject to a good deal of discussion, it seems like an ancillary problem. Oh, it seems like an ancillary problem is the timing of the plays coming from the sidelines. Sometimes there's an interminable wait for the play to come in. What's the deal with this? Too much discussion going on in the staff. At times, when the other team's defense on the ropes, they have a chance to regroup with the slowness of the play calling.
I actually had someone asked me this on my podcast too earlier, and I guess during the broadcast they said that T. Martin likes to wait 15 minutes or 15 seconds till
whole
15
quarter.
seconds left in the play clock before he gets the play down there.
And they said that part of the reason is that they're using the tempo offense, the no huddle offense, but they also want to give the defense a break. So part of the way to do that is to slow down the play calling. I think, like after big plays, and that's a good time to go up there, run a quick play, go after them. Occasionally they'll do that. They'll, the Vi run, they ran the same play on the next play, and they may have run it to the other side, but they ran it. They had a big play. They get up to the line again, and I think he got 9 yards on the next play. So occasionally they'll, okay, let's do it again. Now, I don't think they like to call multiple plays at once. So, hey, if this works, run this the next time. They'll wait and call it. But if you see them go tempo real quick, usually it's the same play coming over again,
Yeah.
which should be a tendency that other teams have picked up on it too.
Right.
One of the issues with the timeouts, I know there's, people hate how much Clay Helton uses the timeouts. Like the first timeout in the second half, they had 12 men on the field. You don't call a timeout, you're getting a penalty. Second one, play clock runs down, and they weren't prepared to snap the ball, so he calls a timeout. So he's usually just saving them 5 yards. Whether that's important or not, enough to use your timeouts, that can be the debate. But anybody that just says he's just burning them, usually there's a reason why he's burning them.
Yeah. You would just hope there wasn't a reason, like they didn't have 12 men on the field during an important part of the.
Better than
When
having
you're
10
down.
on special teams.
Yes. Were there any of those this past game?
No.
I counted. No.
Good
Nice. Oh, Keely's out there counting. Okay.
No, I wanted to find it before you did.
Well, great stuff. Hope you guys all enjoyed this on a Wednesday because we'll all be traveling over the next couple of days to get to Chicago and to South Bend. So make sure you follow Shotgun Spratling on Twitter at ShotgunSPR. Keely Eure, you can follow her at Keely is my name. I'm at Inside Troy. We're all on USCFootball.com. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.